We humans have some basic needs like water, food and air. There should be plenty to go round, but life is not that fair. For mental health to flourish, a good home is fundamental. Somewhere we feel safe and nourished, our own place or a rental. The more fortunate among us may have little cause to wonder about where we might end up each night, what roof we might be under. Maybe a roof's too much to ask. Perhaps it will transpire that finding one's a thankless task, and we're forced to retire under a bridge or in a park, the doorway to a shop, beset by danger, cold and dark, with cardboard sheets on top and underneath to insulate us from the wind and rain, aware that any minute we might be moved on again. Officials, stern and self-assured, may rarely seem to care about the hardships we've endured, the strain we have to bear. How differently we'd think if this was our reality, but it's just the stuff of nightmares for the likes of you and me. We might wake up with quite a start from such a stressful dream, with ragged breath and racing heart, emit a strangled scream, and we might remain quite jangled till we properly come round in our cosy home and comfy bed, familiar things surrounding us, helping us forget about our nighttime visitation to a life we can't relate to, full of hardship and frustration. But for far too many people, our bad dreams, they're day to day. You know, we see them on the pavement and then look the other way. Perhaps we throw a coin or two into a cup or hat, but we rarely make eye contact or remain to have a chat. Why is it, do you think, that we adopt this kind of blindness to our fellow human beings who are most in need of kindness? What if we could pause a moment, look into the other's eyes, and begin to see with empathy and maybe some surprise our own reflection mirrored back, the self-same hopes and fears in the memories acquired and then filed throughout the years? Theirs may contain more trauma and some things we can't conceive, but perhaps as well we'll find more common ground than we'd believe. In my 20s I was homeless and was placed in B&B. I was lucky to avoid the streets. My children were with me, so at least we were allowed a roof, but it was far from heaven. It happened for a second time when I was 47. Now I'm not the kind of person you'd associate with such a calamitous life circumstance, but then we don't know much about any of the people we dismiss with such aplomb. We don't contemplate what caused their fate, the past they've travelled from. The uncomfortable truth, and maybe why we look away, is that any one of us could lose our cosy home one day, as society malfunctions and we battle a pandemic that exacerbates the hideous, insidious, systemic withdrawal of support for those who stumble and then fall. That threat of devastation's hanging there above us all, like the fabled sword of Damocles. When it came down on me, it sent me crashing to my knees, as low as I could be. I spent many years in chaos before finding my way back to a semblance of security, a life that feels on track. And I'd not have made it this far if it wasn't for the folk who refused to heed the stereotype, determined to evoke the spark of hope remaining in the dark of my existence. It could well have been extinguished if it weren't for their persistence. When my mental health was shattered and I couldn't see a future, there were kind and wondrous strangers who took turns to gently suture and spread balm upon the wounds that kept me mired in despair. While so many made it harder, those who took the time to care made more difference than they'll ever know, and not to only me, as the ripples of their kindness spread throughout my family. But the so-called housing service seemed deliberately designed to increase my desperation, most especially when combined with associates in mental health and social care to form a kind of partnership par excellence for escalating trauma. And I know sufficient people who are struggling today to be confident in stating this is often still the way. Decades on, in a position where perhaps I can contribute to that army of kind strangers, it seems prudent to distribute my experience for what it's worth, to try to make it clear that the myriad of people on the streets won't disappear just because we fail to look at them and act like they're to blame. This will only make things worse for them and escalate the shame that for me was the worst symptom of my overwhelming crisis. If we stop and think a moment what the cost of being nice is, we can see it makes no odds to us, though I suspect we'll find that our own lives are much richer when we practice being kind. And for those on the receiving end of services that care, one small act can be transformative. Believe me, I've been there. Our society can only be improved by kinder practice. We've been taught to think of number one, but actually the fact is we can only start to mend the mess you can't deny we're sharing when we shift our main priority from negligence to caring and expand that ethos far beyond our own self-centered cliques. Replace distaste and injustice with an empathy that seeks to explore beyond the judgments we apply so casually and encourage those we find there to be all that they can be. This one change could be a catalyst to shift the current crisis for us all if we stop leaving others to their own devices. So whether you're Joe Public or someone employed to serve, let's ensure that everybody gets the breaks we all deserve.